Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this licensing subcommittee. It's 10 a.m. on the 11th of January 2022. This subcommittee is convened to consider a new premises licence application in respect of 64 to 66 High Street, Needham Market. Applicants and all parties making representations are entitled to make representations to this subcommittee, and you'll have your opportunity to do so at the appropriate time of the hearing. The hearing itself will be in the form of an informal hearing led by the chair of the subcommittee, and generally speaking, there will be a report from the licensing officer outlining the application. The applicant will then be able to make his submissions to the subcommittee, followed by anyone present who's made a representation in respect of the application. There will be opportunities to ask questions after each presentation, but I must remind you that there are questions on clarification on what's been said, and then the applicant will have an opportunity to sum up at the end, and if the subcommittee have any further questions to ask them, then the subcommittee will go into private session to make the determination, and all being well, the determination will be made at the end of this hearing. So what I'll do now is I shall move on to over to the chair. There's no election for the chair, as Councillor Cathy Guthrie is the chair of the full licensing and regulatory committee. So chair, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed. So welcome to this virtual meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. I'd like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to YouTube and will be capable of repeated viewing. The meeting will be recorded except where there are confidential or exempt items. If you make a representation to the meeting, you will be deemed by the Council to have consented to being recorded. By entering this meeting as a speaker, you are consenting to being recorded by the Council and the possible use of those sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. The Council, members of the public, press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded. Virtual meeting etiquette. Please ensure that microphones are muted when you're not speaking, that you do not interrupt the other speakers, that if you're attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Additionally, you will be invited to speak and ask questions by the chair, so please await your turn. May we have absence of apologies, please?
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest from the committee members? Councillor Epping-Young, I can't hear your response. Have we lost connection with Councillor Epping-Young?
His picture seems to be flickering for me. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering if we've lost connection.
Councillor Epping-Young, are you there?
He got up to leave the meeting. I saw him exit his screen.
Oh, there he is.
Councillor Epping-Young, you've missed the declaration of interest by councillors. Do you have any declarations of interest? Can you unmute yourself, please?
Apologies, Chair. I had to switch off those other hi-fi so I could get a better signal.
That was what was the issue. I know you've had problems before. Thank you.
So I have no declarations of interest.
Thank you. So I'll now make the introductions. We've all started speaking. So my name's Cathy Guthrie. I'm the chair for the subcommittee and for the licensing committee. We have Councillor Paul Epping-Young, who's just got his electronics working properly. Thank you very much. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Councillor Guthrie.
And we have Councillor Gerard Brewster. Good morning to you, Gerard. You're muted. We've got to get used to this again.
Good morning, Councillor Guthrie.
Yes, and you're sliding out of our picture a little bit as well, so the members can see
Right.
you. So the officers in attendance, you've already heard from Nigel DeLue, who's our legal officer. Morning, Nigel.
Good morning, Chair.
And we have the licensing officer, Kay Sanders, if you'd make yourself known, please.
Good morning, Chair.
And licensing officer, Catherine Green, please.
She's not with us today, Chair.
Oh, see not, I beg your pardon. I thought I could see the thing there. Beg your pardon. Licensing officer, Kerry Chandler, you're there, please.
Good morning, Chair.
Thank you. And assistant manager, food safety and licensing, Joe Wyatt.
She's also not with us this morning, I believe, Chair.
Oh, right, okay. But we do have the governance officer, Karen Sayer. I can see you there. Good morning.
Good morning. And Beth isn't with us either.
Right, okay.
We've got Mandy doing the technicals, as I
pointed out earlier. So for the public that are listening in, Mandy Smith is our expert in driving this technical work forward for us. So thank you, Mandy. So may I now ask the applicant to introduce yourself, and if you're represented, please make the representative allow him to make the introduction. So if you'd like to switch on your videos and your microphones and we can see and hear and speak to you. Thank you if you'd like to do that.
It's Robert Jordan here. I'm representing the applicants, and the DPS would also represent the applicants as well. So I'll speak first and the DPS will speak after me.
Thank you. And is Mr. Robert McGuinness, is that who is the DPS?
That is correct.
Can you just make
Proposed
yourself
DPS,
known, please?
Good morning.
Can you just put your video on so that members of the public can see who you are as well, because we're looking as if we're all in the chamber together. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So if you'd now both like to switch off your videos and your microphones, you've made your introductions at the moment. But I will ask. Do we not introduce our other
We should have
speakers?
Catherine Bell as well.
Yes, that's what I was just about to ask. We need to see Catherine Bell, if I may, please. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, and you are speaking as?
I'm speaking as a resident of 76 High Street, Needham Market.
And is there anyone else are you aware of that wishes to speak today? Sorry, I can't hear you. Your microphone's off. We'll get used to your microphone's still off.
I'm speaking on behalf of myself and nobody else.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much indeed. And so if you'd now like to switch your video off again, we get used to all these buttons switching on and off eventually. It's quite challenging. Well done. Thank you very much. Now, does anyone want to appoint? Well, we've already heard there's a spokesman, so that's Robert Jordan. Thank you very much. Are any party wanting to withdraw the application or representation? Speak if you wish to withdraw. Thank you. I'll take that as a no, so we'll continue on with the meeting. So to the licensing officer, which will be Kay, have there been any requests from the parties for permission to call witnesses?
No, Chair.
No. Thank you. Have any parties indicated wish to present any documentary evidence or material?
No, Chair, only apart from what's already been circulated prior to the meeting.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So if I come to the applicant, please, can you advise me of the time that you are required to present your case, if you would, please?
It'll be less than 10 minutes, assuming you've received the supporting documents, training programme and documents that we sent in.
We have indeed.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
All my colleagues. So 10 minutes or thereabouts.
Well, it'll be less than 10 minutes. So
right.
As you receive those documents, we don't need to go through those again.
No. And can I ask Catherine Bell, how long would you like for your presentation, please?
10 minutes, please.
10 minutes. That's lovely. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the hearing now. So Kay, licensing officer, can you present your case M/LA sub/21(3) and summarise the matter under consideration for us, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This hearing is to determine an application made for the grant of a new premise licence made under Section 17 of the Licensing Act 2003 by Premier Retail Limited for Premier 6466 High Street, Needham Market, IP6 8AW. The application was received by the Licensing Authority on the 5th of November 2021, and a copy of this is attached to the report as Appendix A. The application made has been subject to the statutory consultation period as prescribed by regulation. The notices advertising the application have been on display at the premise and published in the East Anglian Daily Times on the 24th of November 2021 edition. Full details of the proposed activities and timings are contained within the application form attached as Appendix A. The operating schedule steps proposed by the applicant to promote the 4 licensing objectives are listed in Part M of the application form. A hearing is necessary to determine the application following receipt of representations which have not been withdrawn. The subcommittee will be aware that its consideration is confined to the promotion of the 4 licensing objectives, and the need or commercial demand for licensed premises are not considerations for the licensing authority when discharging its licensing functions. The licensing authority must carry out its functions under the Act with the view of promoting the licensing objectives, which are the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. Subcommittee will also be aware of Human Rights Act 1998 considerations, specifically Article 6 for the applicant and Articles 8 and 1 of Protocol 1 for those raising representations when determining applications for the grant of a new licence. The licensing authority have received no representations from any of the responsible authorities. There have been 9 representations received made by other persons, which include local residents, businesses, or a residents' association. This is attached as Appendix C to this report. The subcommittee must, having regard to the representations made, take such of the steps, if any, it considers appropriate for promotion of the licensing objectives. To grant the licence subject to conditions which are consistent with the operating schedule accompanying the application, modified to such extent as the authority considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, subject to any mandatory conditions which are included in the licence, or to exclude from scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, or to refuse to specify a person as the designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. For these purposes, conditions of the licence are modified if any of them are altered or omitted or a new condition is added. Any party aggrieved by the decision taken by the licensing authority in respect of this application has the statutory right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court. This concludes my summary. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed for that. So I'll now come round in order to ask people if they'd like to question Kay. So Mr. Jordan, do you have any questions for the licensing officer?
No.
Thank you. Mr. McGuinness, do you have any questions for the licensing officer?
No, thanks.
No, thank you. And Catherine Bell, do you have any questions for the licensing officer?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I now come on to the councillors. Councillor Epping-Yong, do you have any questions for the licensing officer? Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, Chair. I do have one question. There was one of the representations indicated that the notice had not been posted for an appropriate amount of time. I just wanted clarification that indeed the notices had been posted in the relevant places for the relevant amount of time.
Can the officers answer that for us, please?
The agent did confirm that the notices were displayed and a photograph was sent in.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that, please, Kay?
Sorry, the agent for the applicant did confirm that the notices were displayed for the correct amount of time, and he sent in a photograph of said notice being displayed.
Thank you.
Can I just ask Nigel DeLew, is that normal that it's the applicant who sends these details in, or should the council have checked this?
No, that's normal procedure.
Normal procedure. Thank you. And Councillor Brewster, do you have any questions, please?
I don't have any questions at this time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Brewster. I just have one question. It's really for clarity so that members of the public and everyone here today can be assured of this. Can we confirm that the police were aware of this application? Sorry, can't hear you. You need to speak without your mic.
Sorry. Yes, Chair, they are a responsible authority and receive a copy of the application.
And we didn't have any response from them?
Not at all, no.
OK, thank you very much. That's just for clarity. Right, so we move on. So we now move to Mr. Jordan, if you'd like to present the case, please. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. I'm just glad the supporting documents have been submitted, so I won't repeat what's said in the supporting documents, but it's quite comprehensive with child protection policies, staff training and various documents that are needed for staff to sign. They've been trained. So I'll deal directly with the points made in the representation. First, to clarify, there's not 24-hour delivery or collection of alcohol proposed. The proposed hours are 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. for the alcohol opening hours and distribution of alcohol for delivery if needed. The licensing officer suggested we apply for a 24-hour licence if we wanted people to be able to pay for alcohol online at any time, because obviously people will pay when they put the order in, if there's a website, etc., etc. So they could pay at any time. So that was the reason for the 24-hour licence. So I hope that clarifies the issue. Drunken people currently in the area, well, that's nothing to do with the applicant, as they do not hold a licence in the village and they've got their strong training programme. And as regards parking, it's responsibility of people to park legally. We don't think that's a licensing issue, and where they do not park legally, then authorities can intervene. In fact, there's a new highway code regulations coming in force at the end of the month, it would appear. So there's no 24-hour delivery. The premises are not alcohol-led. Comprehensive range of products is available. There'll be daily litter patrols to keep the area immediately outside the premises clear of litter. They'll provide bins as far as outside, as far as planning allows, and not to cause an obstruction on the pavement, of course. Challenge 25 policy. So we believe the licence should be granted as submitted, as there's no objections from the authorities. Obviously, the applicants wish to not to upset any numbers, so obviously it's not in their interest. They're investing quite a lot of money in this, as I understand it, Premier store. So it's a completely new refit by established shop fitters. So it's not just opening up, willy-nilly. There's a whole shop fit going in there with a whole range of products. Alcohol would be one of those products. I think the gist of the representations against this were a lot was mentioned of limitless hours supply of alcohol, and we've clarified this is not the case. We don't believe any additional conditions would be needed to be imposed, as obviously the responsible authorities have looked at the conditions. As we believe to impose conditions to prevent the harm, it should be self-evident harm will occur. The co-op's got till 11 p.m. we think. No doubt the licence officer will clarify that, but on the website, because I think the co-op was mentioned, but not that that's relevant to this application, but I think they have a licence till 11 p.m. most days, and also apart from Sunday 10:30 Sunday, and also there seems to be a lot of licences in the area that have licences till 11 according to the website, and then some have got longer hours. So we don't think it'd be a case of people going into the premises after they've had too much to drink in a public house and pestering these people for alcohol. So I think we've put the training process. I don't want to go on about that. We can't really speculate what will happen, as the Thwaites case would say. No responsible authorities have made representation. Stress alcohol will only be appropriated to the contract from the premises from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m. As I said, the only reason for the 24-hour licence was because licensing suggested that would be needed to allow payment online. It's not in the family's interest to upset the neighbours, and various family members have got, or other members have got shops, etc. So no additional conditions have been requested, and we believe no additional conditions should be added to licence, and it should be granted as applied for. Obviously, if the residents were to see a problem, the DPS would be more than happy to take on board anything if they've got a problem with anything. I mean, he's experienced. I mean, he's going to speak briefly shortly, but I think he's experienced. He's just passed his APLH exam, so I think he's going to explain to you that he was in charge of a licensed premises under the old regime before the personal licences were required, I believe. But I'm going to let him deal with that. So I just hope we've dealt with that, and Robert McGuinness can put forward, as he's going to be the proposed DPS. So I'll leave it at that, actually.
Thank you for that. Before I go around the table, I do have a question myself. How many people will be in the store after, say, 8 p.m. at night?
Oh, well, at least 2. We wouldn't want a condition on that, but there'd be at least 2 after 8 p.m. But we wouldn't want a condition on that I mean, sometimes people have to pop out and pop back in.
I was just asking what the...
Yeah, and obviously they have to take a break. They'll still be in the back or something like that.
Yeah.
But there'll be at least 2. There might be even more than that, but I would say at least 2.
Yeah, and if we need to sort of ask the legal officer this next question, but would you object to a restriction of, I know the officer has recommended a 24-hour licence, would the applicant object to restriction to only during opening hours? And I'm not sure whether Nigel might want to jump in and say we can't ask that question or not. So if I ask Nigel first and see if you're allowed to respond. Thank you.
Well, Chair, any condition needs to be sort of necessary and proportionate. It may be that if you do consider that such a condition is necessary, then you may impose a condition that states that face-to-face sales and transfers of alcohol can only take place during the designated opening hours of 6 to 11, which is what the applicant is suggesting anyway. But if you feel that's necessary, and we'll discuss that and we'll go through that, that may be an option.
Right, and can I ask the applicant whether that would be something whether they'd be happy or not? It would be our decision, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So shall we leave that in abeyance at the moment, do you think, Nigel?
It's just for, there seems to be, a discrepancy among various legal advisors whether payment at 1 o'clock in the morning constitutes a licensable activity or not. So it would only be payment. It wouldn't be anybody physically going to the shop or collecting the product. It would only be leaving the product between 6 and 11.
I think the team and the Nigel officer and the legal officer will probably tell us that is a legal requirement for those purposes designated in that. Sure. Would you agree, Nigel? Yeah. So I'm just sounding out as to what might be. Okay. So thank you very much for that for the moment. Councillor Epping-Young, do you have a question for Mr. Jordan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think at this point, I just have one question, which is whether this shop is going to employ anyone under the age of 18 at any time.
They can't employ anybody under the age of 18 to serve alcohol, obviously. I think they'll apply with all the rules and regulations that would be involved with employing people, but they wouldn't want younger people on the premises after sort of 6 o'clock in the evening or too early in the morning, and only during the restricted hours that they're allowed to work. I wouldn't want a restriction on them being employed, but obviously they wouldn't want to be there after, I would say, 6 in the evening. Certainly with at least 2 or 3 members of staff to supervise them, but only within the regulations. I wouldn't want to commit them to not employing. Did you say over 16 or under 16? Sorry?
Under 18.
Under 18. So obviously they would be above 16 years old or whatever that legal limit is for employment now, but certainly not after 8 p.m. or after 6 p.m. really, and certainly only within the restrictions of the very restricted hours, I think, on the 16-year-olds working now, that they'd have to go by that. They've not told me they're employing anybody at 16. As far as I know, they're all going to be over 18, but the DPS could probably tell you a bit more about that because he'll be in charge of the premises.
Thank you. And Councillor Brewster, do you have any questions for Mr. Jordan? Speak up, you've got your microphone muted. We've got to get our buttons right.
There we are.
Right, off you go.
I think, Madam Chair, the question that you asked was one that I'd got a concern about, and that has been answered, I feel. So I think, no, I don't have anything else to ask.
Thank you for that. And now I come to the, Nigel, would it be the officers first and then the Catherine, or Catherine first?
I have no questions myself. If the if the other representative here wants to make any questions, then
yes. So Catherine Bell, do you have any questions for Mr. Jordan at this stage, please?
Yes, I do. Can I put my camera on? And
yes, please do. Yes, we'd like to see and hear you. Thank you.
thank you. Mr. Jordan refers to several elements of his proposition for, why this is an acceptable application. He refers to...
Well, hang on a minute. I don't want to go through the whole thing. What is your question, please?
No, my question, well, I was just giving a backdrop. My question was really around, he has made no differentiation between the days of the week. So not any mention of Sunday has even been put forward, which I'm slightly shocked about because...
Sorry, this still isn't a question, Mrs. Bell. If you will have an opportunity to make all your representations you need to in a few moments.
My question is, what about Sundays?
I think the co-op has 22:30 hours finish on a Sunday. And not that that's relevant to this application, but according to the what I got off the website, I think their Sunday hours is... Sorry?
That's incorrect. They close in the early evening on a Sunday. The co-op...
Well, hang on, we don't want to debate now. We will sort that one out for you.
Well, that's on that's the mistake on Mid-Suffolk District Council's website. Then they've got a licence till 22:30. It states on there, but it could be out of date. But there's no problem in the closure time of 22:30 on a Sunday, which is, I think, would be acceptable.
I must admit, on page 24, Nigel, hang on, I don't want you two to start debating at the moment. Can I just have clarity, Nigel? On page 24, there is hours premises open to the public. It says 6 till 2300 hours, so Sunday is mentioned.
That's right. Yeah, the application is the same hours for all 7 days of the week. That's the application you're considering. So
Sunday is mentioned. It's just not satisfied. We'll hear Catherine Bell. We'll hear your issues regarding that in a moment. Just a moment. So really, the questions, any actual question that you have for Mr. Jordan, please.
I think I'll wait now till I've made my representation. Some questions might come on the back of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's excellent. Thank you very much indeed. So we now hear from...
Chair, so I've just noticed that the licensing officer has her hand up.
Actually, oh yes, Kay and then Councillor Epping-Young.
Yeah,
Kay?
Apologies. I just wanted to clarify the co-op King William Street Needham Market do actually hold a licence Monday to Sunday, 6 o'clock in the morning till 2300 hours across the board, Monday to Sunday, just to clarify that point.
Thank you very much for that. And if our website's wrong, can somebody check that out for us, please, so that yes. That's in the ring as well. Councillor Epping-Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With regard to Appendix A of this documentation, there is on page 25, a number of commitments by the applicant in terms of how online sales are going to be managed and staff training and so on. At what point in these proceedings can we ask questions with regard to those particular issues on page 25?
Well, Nigel, I would say now, would you not?
Yes, I just wonder whether you want to hear from Mr. McGuinness first, because then you'll have all the applicants' representations, and it may be easier to hear from him, and then we can ask all the questions, or perhaps both of them, if there's anything you want to catch up with on that.
Super, thank you.
I do notice Catherine is coming back, but it really must be a question, if you would please, because it's not the debating area, as I'm sure you understand. So is yours a question again? Your hand is up.
Yes.
Can't hear you. There we are.
Yeah, yes.
You.
It is a question.
Mm-hmm.
My question to Mr. Jordan is, does he intend, or do the new shopkeepers intend to keep the hours of 6 till 11 exactly, or 6 till 10:30, because that's not what the co-op do? So my question is, does this applicant intend to keep to those hours for opening? Because whilst Kay Sanders has kindly pointed out the co-op have the same licensing, they do not keep to those hours.
We're not talking about co-op's legitimacy of opening or closing, other than the signs, the times. So if Mr. Jordan would just like to answer the question, although I think that's probably best to Mr. McGuinness, but if he'd like to say, will the shop keep to whatever times are appointed? Will they keep to it?
Yeah, I can answer that. Firstly, on the delivery section and the conditions offered in delivery, we understand that is a common agreement with major operators on the delivery of alcohol. So that comes from which we can't tell exactly who has agreed those conditions, but we understand, and I've been informed by licensing officers, that is a condition that's widely agreed with major delivery companies. So it is a standard condition. I can't say that if the hours granted is 11 p.m, then they obviously may open till 11 p.m. But that's all I can say on that, really. Obviously, they won't be restricted if the licence is granted till 11 p.m. So I can't start debating on their behalf when they'll close and when they won't close.
Okay, I think you've answered the question to the degree that we can at the moment. Right. So if we can now move on and ask Mr. McGuinness, can you take your hand down, Catherine, please? If we can ask Mr. McGuinness to give his presentation, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure.
Previously I was a bar manager for over 20 years in Belfast, so I was licensed under the previous regime. This establishment, I'll be the DPS for this premises. Obviously, strict staff training, CCTV images. In regard to the actual opening hours of the premises, I haven't got a crystal ball, but I don't foresee the shop opening at 6 a.m. Possibly 6:30, 7 a.m. And regarding closing times would probably be 10:30. So the reason why the license was applied for 6 a.m. to 11, that's just to kind of give a better scope. Staff training, all staff will be over 18 years of age, so they'll be legally entitled to serve alcohol. All aspects of licensing will be adhered to. Obviously, see how things go. We can't forecast what percentage of sales the alcohol is going to partake, but there will be numerous other products in store. Alcohol would not be the main reliance of sales. So that's basically all I have to say. All staff that will be serving behind the counter will be over 18 years of age, in relation to that previous question.
Thank you very much. I'm sure some questions will sort of get some more information from you. I will just ask a question. Will people be living on the premises?
There's two flats above the premises at the minute, which are tenanted by private individuals.
Do they have access to the shop?
No. They have an entrance at the rear of the property.
Okay, and do you have? Will you be nearby should there be an incident?
Well, I live in Ipswich, which isn't too far away. North Ipswich I'm living, so it's not too far away, and I will be there regularly.
And what sort of other items will you be selling? Newspapers, sweets, food?
There will be
freezer things. What sort of things? Just to give us a flavour of what you're.
Yeah, there's chest freezers going in. There's stand-up fridges going in. Obviously, Premier's a well-known brand. They have numerous retail units throughout the east of England, and if anybody goes in there, they can see what sort of lines they're selling. There's going to be a slush puppy sort of machine put in there, sandwiches, food on the go type of thing.
I think this is a general convenience store. Premier, a good
general convenience store, yeah.
So selling a wide range of products, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There might be, there could be PayPoint, there could be cash machine, there could be. They'll have it fitted out to give the full. It's quite a reasonable sized store, as you can see, but it's a Premier. I mean,
okay. I think I've got the gist of it now.
Yeah,
thank you. Yeah.
A good convenience store.
Right, convenience store. Thank you. It's just I'm not au fait with them. Councillor Epping-Young, do you have a question for Mr. McGuinness, please?
Yes, I do. Good morning, Mr. McGuinness. Welcome. So do I take it that you will be providing the training that's mentioned in your application?
Basically, myself and a exterior training firm will be coming in to. I've had experience. I've been a retail manager in various shops as well, so I do have experience. A lot of the modules that the staff will be doing will be online, and obviously they'll be training 6 months. Every 6 months they'll be retrained. Fire regulations, licensing regulations, just to keep them au fait with any changes that are afoot.
Okay, and will there be regular inspections, ad hoc inspections in the shop to ensure that?
Well, the CCTV system will have over 30 days of recording on hard drive, so there'll be an incident book as well, so any incidents will be recorded and then can be checked back on the CCTV system.
Okay, if I could just move on to the area of online sales. So people can order alcohol from this shop via an online website. I want to know what precautions there would be to actually stop an underage person ordering online.
Well, perhaps I could answer that. I've spoken to the applicants and we put in those conditions it will be as per the conditions on the application, well accepted conditions by major operators and accepted by the police, we understand, in negotiation with major operators. So it will be as per that condition. So it should be sufficient. It seems to be sufficient with the bigger companies, multiple companies. That's my information from Liverpool Council. So that this was, I think this is one of those. I can't quote Liverpool Council; they'll be coming back to me. But I remember this was a licensing officer who gave me some what had been agreed, because I've dealt throughout the country.
We are sort of straying into a wild debate here, so
yeah, sorry.
Perhaps
I could just keep a little bit tighter.
Sorry,
Nigel.
Chair. Just for clarity, perhaps I'll just direct the members to, it's on page 25 under the of Appendix A, under the general conditions. There are a number of conditions there that relates to dealing with online sales. And I believe there was some other information, perhaps with the additional documents as well.
Yeah.
Well, Nigel, I mean, in section C, it does talk about the adoption of an age verification policy throughout the whole process of operation. But I fail to see how anybody can actually stop someone ordering online if they're underage. I really do.
We can go through the conditions, but there are procedures of requesting identity when alcohol is being delivered as well. I think that's been included.
Yeah, they
yes,
have to
I can
have
see.
the name
I'm sorry,
and address.
could you not cut
Gordon, will
across
you just
me?
leave people stop talking over one another? Let Paul and Nigel sort this out, please.
So I can see the point about delivery. I have a question about that also, but I don't think anyone has so far really satisfied my question as to how we're going to stop an underage person ordering online.
There is physically no way to stop someone sitting in a house remote from the premises making an order when they're underage. There are procedures in place as to when a delivery is made, that the person they deliver to has to provide identification that they are the person that made the order and that they are the person that's old enough to make the order, i.e. over 18. Yeah, I think there are various places. I know when I've in the last year or so, when I've made orders, I've had to stand at the doorstep with my driving license, even though I know I sometimes look under 18, but you know, even me, I've been asked to show identification, and I believe, looking at the conditions, it's very similar. But we can go through those in private session. If you have any concerns, we can go through those. If you feel anything needs bolstering up, then you have the ability to include further conditions if you feel they are justified, proportionate, and required.
Thank you very much, Nigel. I shall leave the rest of my issues until then. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Uppingham. Councillor Brewster, do you have any questions for Mr. McGuinness?
I have just one, actually, Madam Chair. I'm a little confused over the licensable area, which the whole ground floor appears to be having the red line. So do you have a specific place to keep the alcohol, and because there must be some security about that as well, I would have thought.
The reason we always for the last 10 years have been licensing the whole of the alcohol, the whole of the area, is so that they have the freedom to, exactly what you're saying, move it if they feel that it's not in a great place, but it will be in view of the counter or CCTV. But it's never, hardly ever been an issue. It's not going to be the whole of the shop covered with alcohol. There'll only be a percentage of the shop covered with alcohol. but it just gives the applicants the freedom to move the alcohol. I've done this on every application for the last 10 years, and it's maybe one or two have come back to ask that to be altered. So we always do that because, well, we always do that. We've had sometimes an order comes in, and an order has to be put on the floor before it's put on the shelf, and this has caused an issue with the licensing officer walking in and saying you've got alcohol displayed on the floor when it's just quite a big order coming, and they're placing it by the counter so they can see it before they put it on the shelves or moving around. We don't want that to. I know it sounds silly, but most licensing officers wouldn't be an issue with, but some, just say, oh, there's an ounce of alcohol on the floor. It shouldn't be on the floor. So we license it.
Okay, I think we've covered that point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Brewster, do you have another question?
No, I don't. That was my only question, but I've been looking at it and just a little bit confused as to what was happening with that area. But I can understand that it does need to be movable, basically.
Yeah. Just before I come and ask Catherine Bell for her questions, if she has any for Mr. McGuinness, but I do note that Mr. Jordan has been replying to most of these, so Mr. McGuinness doesn't seem to have the confidence of answering some of them or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong in that assumption, Mr. McGuinness, so I apologise. But Kay, would you just ask your question before we ask Catherine Bell, please? Yes, Kay.
Thank you, Chair. It was just to clarify the issue around the plan. Licensing would normally recommend for an off-sale shop to cover the whole shop with the sale of alcohol, for the very reason Mr. Jordan said. If they were to move things around, they would then have to turn around and to submit either a minor variation application or a full variation application. So we advise that to save them money.
Okay, that's very helpful, I think. So thank you for that, Kay. And now, Catherine Bell, if you'd like to ask your question for Mr. McGuinness, who's sitting patiently waiting. Thank you.
Who is the key holder for the alarm going off, please?
Who's the key holder?
If the alarm goes off late at night in thunderstorms, which they always do,
right?
Who is the key holder?
The premises is not complete yet, so that will have to be decided.
Well, it's a fair question, so I think it's the one at the moment.
The DPS.
And that's the question that's been put, and if you can't answer it, we'll debate it when we go out.
Well, obviously the DPS have to be a key holder. I mean, that's without a doubt. But other nominated people, depending on the staff levels, will have to be nominated as well. They may be nearer to the premises and may be able to attend quicker. But obviously the DPS will be a key holder. These are experienced operators. And they have got other shops.
Yeah,
Catherine, do you have another question? In relation to the previous question regarding the Uber Eats orders for online, Robert's more experienced with that than I am. That's why he was answering on my behalf. Because, right, it's just we couldn't see him, and you were sitting there looking at him. That's all a new thing. New area for you. Yeah. Got you. Okay.
I have one
Catherine,
other question.
Another question, please. Yes.
How many burglaries, thefts, and crimes have been reported at Premier stores in the last 3 years, please?
I don't think that's a relevant question. Do you, Nigel?
Why not?
No, well, we're looking at the new premises here.
No, other premises. There will be stats for that.
Pardon me.
Catherine, please don't interrupt the legal officer.
If the applicant is prepared and has the information, is prepared to give that information, then I'm happy for him to answer. But I will advise the committee to give the relevant weight to that question.
Exactly.
All I will say is this has been before the police. The police have the statistics. The police have made, who are the experts on crime disorder. That's under guidance 182. So They have made no representation on this application. They are happy with the delivery conditions. They are happy with the conditions we've offered, and have made no comment on extra security or crime scene prevention. They've not made any other suggested conditions. We feel this is a good application and a lot of investment being made.
We just need the answer to the question that Catherine asked. You haven't got the details, and we've heard the response that you've given on that. Catherine, do you have another question at all?
Those are my two key questions. Thank you.
And
they have not. Neither of them have been satisfactorily answered. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. So now I'm just running around the offices. Are there any further questions that the officers wish to ask for Mr. McGuinness?
No, thank you, Chair.
Right. OK. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So now, Catherine, if you'd like to give your presentation, we need to hear from you with all the issues that you obviously have got to tell us in your words, please, if you would. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Firstly, I just wanted to clarify.
Sorry, you've gone. We can't see you. Have we lost connection with Catherine?
Hello, sorry, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there. I do apologise.
Don't worry, it comes and goes. The internet is always reliable. Yeah. Right, please.
Yes, firstly, in order to, and as it's my presentation, I hope I can do this. Firstly, Councillor Brewster, Madam Chair, seemed to be confused when I put forward a point about the co-op's actual opening times. And I do believe that was a relevant part of my presentation, because and why I asked one of my questions about the intended opening times, because I have the opening times in front of me here of the co-op, and on Sunday it closes at 6 in the evening. And I think this is a very relevant point, because I think the key presentation issues I have revert around public nuisance point of the concerns here that I have, and those relate to another point which has been made very light of, but I think is a very substantive part of my concern. The road going through Needham Market is a very widely used road. In fact, so much so that the A14 is being diverted through here at the moment for an 8-week period by Mid Suffolk District Council, or by Suffolk County Council, actually. The road is being diverted through here, which means that we have serious levels of heavy traffic going through the village. This compounds and is a proximate cause of one of the issues that I have. The co-op has 4 parking spaces at King William Street. The other co-op in the village has its own parking lot, which by my last count had at least 20 parking spaces available. This means that there is no interruption to the flow of traffic as part of the application being made by the applicant here. The aggressive nature of drivers who are looking for parking and are being treated by people who wish to drive through the village is to be seen, to be believed. I'm not sure how many of you sitting on the committee live in Needham Market or live in the High Street, but just to give you some context around this, and I must apologise, I had a major operation on Friday. I am sitting here in some pain at the moment to put forward my points, and if my voice
take your time. Take your time.
I'm actually not very well, but I feel so passionately about this that I put myself out. And I took exception to what appeared to be a little bit of scoffing at one of the points I made. So please bear with me, I'm doing my best. Now, what's happened is there's been quite a lot of criminal damage in the village. I have lost £250 worth of ornamental tree pots of hanging baskets have been removed and stolen. My Christmas tree was stolen. Some very beautiful pots that I put in the high street in order to make my frontage really beautiful, to show pride in my community and my village, have been kicked and smashed. That is heartbreaking, but it is a sign of the times we live in, where we can put whatever rules we wish to in place. We can quote whatever laws. I am an ex-policewoman. I know the law, and I know what it's like to try and control antisocial behaviour and public nuisance. I know how difficult that can be. Suffolk County, the Suffolk Police Force currently have 3 police officers at any one time covering this area. I've now been told there isn't a nominated key holder who can come if there is a problem. I've asked a very valid point on the attraction of money being in a store which is open at night, which becomes a target for robbery and for burglary. I have been given no substantive or reassuring answer to those questions. They're both valid questions and no answer has been given. The co-op operates with its own parking. The parking issues in Needham Market they're terrible. The amount of shouting and screaming and speeding motorists in this village is now untenable. I've approached my councillor Kay Oakes on numerous occasions to explain that I had to shout at a car the other day doing 70 miles an hour through this village. Now, the reason that is contributory to these licensing hours is this. When people are trying to pull over to park, they are disrupting the flow of traffic, and they may only want to pop in to get some beer or some wine or to pop into this new store, okay? But in popping in, they are going to exacerbate and elevate the issues around there being no parking available with this store. Now, moving on to the other issues around the criminal behaviour, I think that this village has the right to enjoy peace and tranquility of an evening. This high street does not have any other store open in it during the period that this store is proposing to open, which means currently residents have the enjoyment of at least a little bit of peace and quiet because there aren't excessive people coming to a premises at night. During the day, the post office receives numerous visitors, but that's to be expected. This is a small village which has a very super facility to have some shops here. I am not disputing that. My rationale is that this store is operating outside the current operational personality of the community. It is an addendum to our current expectations as residents. As residents, on a Sunday, for a store to be attracting traffic up and down this high street, when at the moment we don't experience that, means that we now have to tolerate, if this is granted, a further inconvenience to our already burdensome experience of speeding cars, antisocial behaviour, vandalism that I have absolute categoric proof of. You can come, I could show you pictures of my smash pots that have been kicked. Litter, alarms going off. As a police officer, I know that when the thunderstorms come, that alarms go off all night in shops all over the place. You have to go and try and find a key holder. The applicant lives in Ipswich, so it's not on his doorstep, it's on mine. These inconveniences are on my doorstep, and they're on the doorstep of lots of other very decent, very lovely residents of Needham Market, and you are the custodians of our quality of life. All of you on this committee are the custodians of our well-being. And I put it to you that as the custodians, you need to look at the opening hours of the co-op and grant a licence based on the same opening hours that the co-op, as a community-focused provider of similar services to Premier, adopt on behalf of our community. And they should be proud of that. And they should be proud of that because they live in harmony with us. And I have nothing against the applicant personally, but you are about to decimate our peace and quiet on a Sunday, and I take exception to that. And I am imploring the councillors on this committee to hear the passion in my words here, and to know they come from a place of not egregious, vexatious comments that I'm making to be deliberately awkward, but because I know it is going to undermine our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that passionate review of the situation as you see it, and I do understand it. If you are happy to keep your video off and compose yourself and get a drink of water or something, and we'll give you a few moments. Do the officers, does Councillor Epping-Young have any questions for Catherine Bell? If we just give her a moment.
Madam Chair, no, I have no questions for Catherine. Thank you at this moment.
Right, Councillor Brewster, do you have any questions? Sorry, we can't hear you. You're there you are. No, you've done it. That's better.
No, I mean, I do understand where Catherine is coming from, but I don't have any questions.
Right. Do any of the officers have any questions for Catherine Bell, please?
No, Chair.
No.
No, Chair.
No,
No,
right,
Chair.
thank you.
No, thank you.
And
Thank you, Madam Chair, for listening to my concerns. I really appreciate the review being held. Thank you.
no, not at all. And I appreciate the issues that you've raised. I mean, we used to work in Needham Market and we used to shop in Needham Market. So we know the particular shop that you're referring to, but not your particular home. And it sounds as though you've had a very unfortunate experience, but thank you for coming along. So I think if there's no further questions there.
If only the applicant has any questions, Chair.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, Mr. Jordan, would you like to ask a question? And Catherine, you're quite happy to leave your video off if you so desire.
I don't, Madam Chair.
No.
Councillor Jordan. Mr. Jordan.
No questions.
Oh, I thought you said you had. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. And does Mr. Magnuson have any questions? McGuinness, sorry. Yes.
No question, thanks.
Sorry about that. That was just an interruption. Right. So we now ask the applicant to sum up, please. I think that's right. Sorry, I just got disturbed there, Nigel. That's where we're at the moment, isn't it? As summing up.
Yeah, closing submissions. If the licensing officer has anything, just to clarify, now's the time for the licensing officer to do that, and then for the closing submissions from the applicant.
Yeah, the one thing I would ask of the licensing officer, because Catherine Bell did bring it up, can we really have clarity on, I know the co-op isn't our applicant here, what they are allowed to do and what they actually do, because I think that's a difference that we need to just consider. So could you just clarify that, and I'll write it down as you speak.
Yep, I can clarify that they have the ability on their licence that their permitted hours are Monday to Sunday, 0600 hours in the morning till 2300 hours.
And seriously, from Catherine Bell, they don't use those hours.
No, and they are they're within their rights to do that. That's not our remit, but they can.
No, but so that we can get clarity on what we've been told, so that Catherine can be assured that we are understanding what the issue is. And so they seem to close at, what was the time I mentioned?
6 p.m. on a Sunday, and they don't open till 8 a.m. and they close at 10 p.m. on every night other than Sunday. And I have a copy of that documentation.
Yes, lovely. That's really helpful. Thank you for that. So we're all clear on that when we go into our session. So Nigel, I think if we now ask the applicant to sum up for us.
Yes, I'll do this. I'll do the summing up.
Thank you. You can put your video on. We can see who you are.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Technology. I'm not up with it. So we don't think parking is a licensable activity. In all the hearings of, it's up to people to park correctly. But I'm sure they can encourage people not to be obstructive as regards licensing. There's obviously a review procedure should any issues occur. We think the licence should be granted as submitted, specifically since most of the objections seem to be regarding crime and disorder, and the police have not made any comments on this, and Guidance 182 says they are the experts, and they should be. Obviously, key holders, I've not been scoffing at any points raised, so I hope that's not suggesting we've been scoffing at any points raised. It's not nice being in hospital for a length of time, as I know. And obviously, key holders, they have to be provided to the police. The key holders have to give the police the name and address of the key holders, because otherwise there'd be no point in having the alarm. If it goes off too many times, they don't, and they can't raise anybody, they would stop attending. So, in my experience, the training program's there. So it's quite clear what the training program is. And, you know, it's not opened yet. It's not fully fitted yet. So all safety measures will be put in place once it's finished. And I was going to make another point, which I seem to have forgotten about. And the actual, I mean, I think that it says that ID procedure will be undertaken at the point of delivery, and that seems to have been accepted by major companies. And the co-op's not really relevant to this application, but we would hope that our clients would not be put in a disadvantaged position as regards the co-op as they're making a big investment. So I would hope there's not a different rule for my clients than the co-op. But obviously, they don't go till 11. Sunday, 10:30 would be okay on a Sunday for end of licensable hours. That's all I've got to say, really. I think I hope I've addressed the points made by the representations. But parking is not a licensable issue. That's been proved many times. There's a review process. And the police haven't made any representation. Obviously, these issues that the poor lady's been experiencing it's not good, is it? I've lived in various areas, and it does vary, and it can be a nightmare in some areas, and some areas not much of a problem. But these are not related to my client, and they're not related to sale of alcohol. It seems it's not related to the co-op. The co-op is apparently not related to the co-op, although that's not relevant to this application. So what the vandalism is, it doesn't seem to be related to alcohol sales from off licenses. I'm not going to say any more, really. I think it should be granted as done, with no more conditions on that license. Whether they're open till 11, I don't know. But it would depend on trade. They're expecting about 15% of trade to be alcohol, the rest to be non-alcohol products, 10 to 15% trade alcohol. Depends on whether they seem reasonable hours, and the hours that are already granted in the area. So they're not, and also I think mentioned these, a lot of other pubs and whatever they are, they seem to be open after 11 and licensable hours after 11. So okay for Sunday to come down to 22:30. We can't say any more, really. So that's it, really.
Thank you very much indeed. So I think we've all had sufficient time for questioning and hearing everybody's points of view. So on the basis of that, the subcommittee considers that the public interest in excluding the public outweighs the public interest in its deliberation being held in public. It is resolved that under section 100A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public are excluded from the meeting for item 6 on the grounds that it involves the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12 of the Act on the grounds set out in Regulation 14 brackets 2 of the Licensing Act 2003 brackets Hearings Regulations 2005. May I have a proposer, please?
Happy to propose, Madam Chair.
And a seconder, please.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you very much. So in that case, what will happen is members of the committee and the legal officer will adjourn to another room, in effect. So all of you may remain where you are, and we will come back once our deliberations have been made. So thank you for that, and we will now leave and go to our
Chair,
next.
Sorry to interrupt, Chair. Can we just check with Mandy that she's paused
Well, thank you very much for your patience. I will now hand the meeting over to Nigel, who will come up with the conclusion of our deliberations. Thank you, Nigel. Okay, thank you everybody for waiting. As you may gather, the subcommittee have deliberated long and hard over this matter. They've considered the representations made orally at the hearing today, but also the other written representations made to this application. There are three areas that I just want to cover that were the main considerations. The first matter was the operational times of other stores, and the subcommittee quite rightly have decided those weren't not relevant to their decision making. The decision today was made on the application itself, on its own merits, and the impact that application would have on the licensing objectives. The second main issue that they considered was the issues regarding traffic and parking, and again they acknowledge that there are issues with traffic, particularly at the moment with diverted traffic coming through the town and parking problems. They don't necessarily agree with the applicant that this is not an issue for licensing. The existence of a licensed premises may have a direct impact on parking in the immediate area, which may contribute to antisocial behaviour and aggressive behaviour in that respect. However, they've also considered that there was a store previously cited at this premises, although it wasn't open for those hours, but during the daytime and the busy times, there was a store there that would have required parking as well. And so they're not satisfied that there is sufficient evidence relating to the traffic and parking that would have a material impact on the licensing objectives to refuse the application on that basis. With regard to the antisocial behaviour and vandalism, this was more of a concern for the members. They have real sympathy for Catherine Bell and for the other persons who made written representations in respect of this matter. However, the difficulty that the subcommittee have here is that we're dealing with a new premises which has no track record, and therefore there's no evidence of antisocial behaviour or violence emanating from the premises. And having considered it very carefully, and also having looking through very carefully the council's licensing policy at Part 6, which refers to licensable hours, feel there's not enough information at this time for them to actually validly refuse the application on that basis. Obviously, if there's evidence in the future that there are problems directly attributed to this premises, there is an option to review the licence, and the licence may be called in at any time if problems exist. So again, the subcommittee feel that there isn't any information at this time for them to actually refuse the application. They do wish to impose a condition, and that is that face-to-face and in-person sales of alcohol will only take place between the hours of 6 AM and 11 PM Monday to Saturday, and 6 AM to 10:30 PM on Sundays. So that's the decision of the subcommittee. The applicant and any person who's made representations to this subcommittee who is not satisfied with the decision or has an objection to any condition imposed may appeal to the Magistrates Court within 21 days of receiving written notification of this decision. And I'll just hand back to the chair to close the meeting. Thank you very much indeed, Nigel, and thank you to everybody for their attendance today. And I do hope that both the applicant and the resident will be comforted that a lot of care has been taken over this, but that they can work together. And so with that, and I wish Catherine Bell a healthier recovery. And so I now close the meeting. Thank you very much.